Celebrate Tiffany P.
Oh, yay! Yay, Tiffany!
Just got real. Good. Hi, everybody. Tiffany, alcoholic.
Hi,
Hey, Tiffany.
I am 57 years old. My sobriety date is November 4th, 2016.
Yay! Yay, my Tiffany! My Tiffany!
I am so grateful to be here. And I was just like kind of tearing up on the way here because, it's just overwhelming. And you guys all know what it's like when we finally make it here and life gets better and, that war is over and watching others, go back out and it's just like, wow, God, thank you so much for using me because I was not useful. I have a long history of coming into Alcoholics Anonymous. I went to my first rehab at 19 years old. And I was, like they say, out cold back then. I was wild. I have a lot of drugs in my story, so I'm going to try to respect the traditions and the singleness of purpose here in Alcoholics Anonymous, but just to let you know, I may slip here and there. But yeah, I started, I was born to two 16-year-olds who, when I was in my first year of life, they were in a drug raid. And so I was taken from them and made a ward of the state. And, way back then, I think that people had a little more involvement in the courts. So my grandma was able to, go get me, and she had me for a while until she kind of, in my opinion, did the worst thing she could ever do was give me back to my mom. Because that woman didn't know what to do with me, and she didn't want me, and she didn't like me, and and that's, no little child is supposed to grow up in an environment where they're not wanted and loved, okay? But there are so many that are, okay? So today I know I'm not unique, and we all have our story, and that's what I'm here to tell. I'm a bit nervous. I spoke a bunch in my first 4 years of sobriety before COVID. They shut the world down, and I haven't spoke since. But I know that my nervousness is just my ego. It's just my human self on this earth wanting to be liked and accepted. And the hell with that ego, but it does get in the way a lot. I grew up around a bunch of drug addicts and alcoholics. Very nurtured, late 60s, very afraid, very desperate for attention, for somebody to watch me and look at me and talk to me, because that was hard to get where I lived. And eventually, I started to run away, and I became a habitual runaway. So I was in and out of the juvenile home, and learned how to get high. Weed was the first, thing that I altered myself with. But, truthfully, I just remember wanting to grow up. I just wanted to grow up and be like these people that I was growing up with, or, around. A bunch of hippies and stuff, and that was normal, so that's what I'm going to learn how to do. And did I make a profession out of that? But anyways, I think looking back, I just wanted love and acceptance. I wanted friends. I wanted to escape my mind. I didn't know what to do with my feelings and my thoughts, and so I turned to alcohol. And I drank alcoholically from the very beginning. There was no sense in my mind to have a drink. Who the hell wants one drink? It really wasn't. I mean, I would get with some people and we'd go in on the 5th and we'd go to a park and just get wasted and black out and wake up the next day and, just find out, go to school here and there. And so, that was, up until high school. And then, but I did eventually go live with my grandma, which I think is the best thing that God ever did, is allow my mom to say, okay, because in her mind, to keep me with her, she had some sense of control and made her feel right or something, although she didn't want me. And so the damage was done, and all I wanted was to find a guy, in high school, just give me a boyfriend and let me feel that love feeling, and I'm going to be normal. And other than that, it was, when's my next party? When's my next drunk? Let me do all the drugs and alcohol I can do, because that was my form of entertainment. I quit school in 10th grade. I got pregnant in 11, and I had my first son, just over 17 years old. And, I stayed with that guy for a couple years, and, my mentality back then was like, he's got a car and he has a job, so that's cool with me. He can buy me liquor, and he was a good guy. Don't get me wrong. Both of my kids are by good guys. Thank you. But because ultimately he, at 4 years old, when Jason was 4, he came and took custody of him, and I went into court and left a crazy house, a drug house, and I had tracks up and down my arms. And my court-appointed lawyer told me, don't say anything, Tiffany, because they're going to put you up there and put you on the showcase and make you show your arms and this and that. So I didn't say a word. I sat there and looked my kid and went right back to that house. And, it was in that era where I learned how to be a prostitute and walk the streets and make money and support my habit. And the more that I went into that life, the better I got at cutting off my human self. I mean, I just turned off. I remember, going into that first rehab at 19, and I never wanted to be that way. I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be normal. I felt I was a good person, but it's kind of like they say the world doesn't judge you by your intentions, but by your actions, right? And my actions were completely about Tiffany. And I can really sit here and say, though, that I didn't know any better. I didn't know any better. Why wouldn't it be all about me, many years of just complete survival out in the streets. And then I went into that first rehab, I got out, and I went into the Allen Club in Battle Creek, and that's where I met Judy. And some beautiful people that I know to this day. A few of them just passed this last year. That when you fight the war for so long and you're in and out and you see these people, they're willing to help you, and then they start leaving. It's like, wow, and so, but I went into my first outside meeting out of that first Glen Bay, Grand Rapids, and I I was just looking for somebody to loan me a car so I could go back to the rehab to meet the boyfriend that I was in there. Who doesn't go into rehab and not find their next boyfriend, right? I found plenty. So I had a willing participant. He's still in AA today, Bob D. He loaned me his van, and he didn't see that van for about a week. It was going down the street, you know. And so, you know, I was in and out of AA in the next few years, and I would come in very desperate. And I would hear that we're supposed to get a sponsor. Okay. Judy was my very first sponsor. And by the grace of God, I think I was 27, and I walked in that time, and I met my real dad, who just got out of prison, which he was in my whole life, and I didn't know him. But I remember looking at my mom's yearbook and seeing what he looked like and stuff like that. And so I met him, I went up to him, "Are you Pat?" I was like, "Are you Tiffany?" Met my real dad. It's pretty cool. He had 12 years of sobriety through Alcoholics Anonymous, but you know, did some things and ended up relapsing and ODing and died. But I asked Judy to be my sponsor, and I was dead serious, you guys. I mean, you know, the stuff that I was doing and the way I was living, I knew, you know, I just knew that's wrong. You know, I would binge and go home, and I would just be in that nightmare of you know, the terror and bewilderment of that relapse or that binge, and I would wake up and just be like, just hate myself, force myself to go back to sleep as long as I could. I just wanted to sleep because I didn't want to think about what I just did for however long, you know. So my goddess, she actually got me through the fifth step. I remember doing an inventory, and then I stayed clean and sober for a year. And I remember speaking, and you guys, that's like 30 years ago, you guys. And she taped it on a cassette tape. And I mean, I remember listening to that thing. Oh my God, it was just like. So anyways, yeah, so I really don't want to talk about this stuff too long because it's, you know, it's just qualifying stuff, right? But I met another really good guy, and I tried to get sober and go to AA, and I was very good at going into AA, going to big book studies and really listening and trying to memorize this stuff, right? And so I would, just by sheer whatever, get sober for a year and a half, 2 years, and another guy, and I had 2 more children, and you know, I was a performer, very good at manipulation and getting people to you know, do as I say. And, you know, the actor who wants to run the show, I got really good at that, so good that it almost killed me, but yeah, and I had 2 more children, and I was in and out of AA, 11 rehabs, and I lost those 2 children also. And eventually, okay. And I was in AA and in rehabs and in the psych unit so much that I was always so hopeful when I got into a meeting and so hopeful when I would get a sponsor, and I would try to be so involved with the fellowship, and I thought that I was getting it, right? But I wasn't, because I was not following all of the few simple rules, few simple requirements that the book talks about, right? I was half measuring it. And, you know, been a barber for 34 years, and I have been blessed to open and reopen a barbershop many, many times, and been very successful at it. And one time, Mr. McCool glasses, and I had, you know, a net shirt on, and this little guy just gets up to pay, and he puts a $100 bill right there. Y'all, that old man did not know what he just did. So I, you know, I did what I do, and I just talked the sweetest, kindest way to him, and he kept coming back, and I continued to manipulate that guy, and because of that behavior, right, the sobriety I had went out the door. I was living dishonestly, right? And so I started, you know, from using that old guy to using pills to eventually going to my alcohol of choice, right? And he never seen the last of me. He still lives today, and I ended up marrying him when I laid down in jail. I got out 5 months later. I said, I can't lose this whole man. And so that's exactly what I did. And he's very special because he'd have to be, right? But that guy brought me money and brought me 2 pints of liquor every single day, even when I was throwing up blood in front of him, shaking violently, just trying to get the liquor in me to get right. The old guy would do exactly what I said, you know, and you know, he did keep me out of prison, a whole bunch of money for drunk drivings, and hit and run on the last one with a newborn baby in it, and blah, 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 you know, kept money on my books and stuff like that. And so when I did, I got out of jail, and I talked him into going to the courthouse, and that kind of, as we call it, hidden that lick right there, almost killed me, but God had different plans, man, I tell you right now, with me and that old man, because I literally almost drank myself to death in the house that he bought me, and was in a house that was filled with people living a lie, talking a lie, and I had enough recovery in me to know that I was a lie, I was living a lie. So I became very angry, and I became very mean and harmful to others, and would be just in that house just drinking myself to death, full of self-pity, spitting on the floor, you know, putting my cigarettes out. I had a picture of Wilson. Remember Wilson passed away? Mm-hmm. That was my buddy. You know what I mean? I cuss at him and I cry to him, and it was pathetic. And I had this person there, and they were too scared to call 911 on me, and I had somebody to come over there and call 911, and they got me. I had 2 half gallons of liquor and enough drugs and alcohol to do me away, right? But I couldn't ingest anymore. I couldn't even feel it. I couldn't get it in me. I couldn't, and my body was failing me. And that had never happened. I mean, it happened, but not to this degree. And so somebody came, they called 911, they got me in an ambulance. My blood sugar was at 29. I am not diabetic. Never was, still am not. And I haven't had a drink since that, when I got out of the house, you know, that night. You know, it's November 4th, 2016. And came.
Yay, Tiffany.
I came back into AA, and I couldn't even, after I got out of the hospital, I was so sick, I couldn't even get out of my bed for 2 weeks. And when I got out, I went into AA, and I got a sponsor. She had actually been a sponsor to me before, and several times. And she kept showing up and opening that book up with me, and I kept not finishing. Not showing up, not following through, not doing what was asked of me. And she said to me, are you sure? She said, I don't know if maybe I'm the right person, Tiffany, because, I did my best. And I said, it's me that has it. I'm doing the work. You're doing exactly what you are supposed to do, is show up and open the book, right? So I did what she told me to do. And within 7 weeks, I was out making my amends. to some people that I just absolutely despised. And it wasn't easy for me to, one of my favorite parts of the steps and in the 4-step inventory is that fourth column, man, because, I can spend my whole life telling you and even believing myself that it's their fault. And if I wasn't raised like that, I would hate you. And if you wouldn't have left me in that circumstance, I wouldn't be like this. But there comes a time where all of them excuses, they don't work anymore. And they quit working for me. I believe that is my higher power, man, allowing me to see just enough of the truth about myself to get into these steps and work them, right? And, I didn't understand all of the steps exactly like I do now when I was working them. And I don't believe you have to. You just have to do them. And, I had a barber shop, and it was actually, the old guy got me the best building in the part of town where I had wanted for all these years, right? I stayed on that strip, but this was the building. Got into that, had 5 girls working for me, and one of them was coming to my house, and after I got the shop, I realized, and she was coming to my house and drinking with me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, thank you so much for watching the shop for me." It was covered, it was open every day and stuff like that, right? And she was just coming down, she's really good and stuff like that. And one of the girls that worked for me was in recovery, and she called me and she said, "David, you better come and get your stuff out of here because they're about to empty your shop. She has legally got you abandoned from this building because you're not showing up." And so, bottom line, she kind of did me dirty, right? But look, when they got time to make an amends, I was fantasizing about meeting that girl in the dark alley. And I really was. And here I am, that was 7 weeks of sobriety, and I'm fantasizing about hurting her. How dare. She was like straight playing me. And I got to that 4th column of that resentment. And what was my part in that? And it's like, well, if you were sober, you would have showed up for work, right? If you went to meetings, you'd stay sober. If you worked the steps, you'd stay sober. There wasn't any lie I could tell myself anymore. This was my part, right? And so that was one of the hardest amends I had to make, you guys. And I'm going to tell you what, it does talk about we will have this certain type of feeling of calmness and forgiveness for this person or whatever. Man, I didn't experience that. I was sitting in McDonald's across from the building that she took me over and making an amends to her. And I took my 4-step ending with me so that I didn't get confused, because that 4th column is exactly what I'm going to go to the person and make an amends for. There's no confusion. And I was vibrating, right? And I was called my sponsor before making the amends and after. And I got in the truck after making that amends to her, and it was a bit wet on it and everything. The fact that I did that is something that is just still beyond me. This is something we have to do. We have to forget the wrongs others had done entirely. It's my side of the street. This is my recovery, right? And I did it. I called my sponsor. All's well, hang up. And I felt this clear, moving reality, this moving right here on the left side of me. And I looked over. I go, "Oh my God, you are real." Because I didn't believe in God, you guys. I just didn't. I fought it. You want to talk about belligerent denial. It was, I experienced the power. I experienced the power, you guys, when I was completely full of fear and self-reliance that was failing me for years. But it was just like, bam, bam, doing the same thing over and again.
And I experienced that power, and because of that, I went back into the next week of meetings, and when they talk about our thinking will change. Oh God, wish I could quote it, but my things, conversations were being had in front of me, and I was just like, yeah, I'm like, yeah. And the biggest gift that I got out of that was that, oh wow, if I don't stay with that thing and stay with this thing, I'm screwed. All of those years of relapse, it will happen to me again. I mean, I've got a beautiful life today. I've got some of my sponsees here. I've got a group of women that are here to support me. I've got something, it just blows my mind, right? That doesn't matter. That house that old man bought me, I live in today, it's just beautiful. It's clean. It has people in recovery in there. There's a barn outside that I put the AA symbol on, man, and I get people to come and speak with meetings in there. The dirt has been made useful. The dirt, and I didn't do that. Left to Tiffany, she will destroy, she'll sabotage. I don't know why, but it's the truth, and it is the facts, right? But the beautiful thing is that I know that I'll continue to do that. If I stay with that power and this program, it's action, right? I will never forget. Now, you guys, I've been in and out of AA sometimes through the courts, right? It didn't start that way. I literally came in, on my own, out of desperation, but then, stuff happens, right? And I get sent there, and, not the pastor, so anyways, I live in that house. I sponsor others there. We do fifth steps. I've had people have their first step meetings there. If I rest on my laurels, if I don't, that's what it was, sponsor, or, being a sponsor. I remember for many, many years, I won't do that. In my mind, I do that. I'm too dumb. Don't you know I didn't graduate from school? Like, I just, out of repetitive, know, how to read this, right? Like, I can't do that. Like, these women are like, right? But this time, my life depended on it. And I had that thing. And that's what I called God it for the first 2 years of my sobriety. It is real. It's real. And so I have been in and out of the courts enough to know that there are plenty of people that don't want to be there. Okay? And they just got to get their paper signed. That's exactly who I practice with. God bless them, I would go up to them, hey, you're in drug court, you're in sobriety court, I know you probably have to have a sponsor. Hey, girl, here's my number. And, just talk to them on their level, where they're at, because I've been there most of my life, right? And then I've got a new sponsee, right? What do? I take them and I meet with them, and I open this book up and read forward to the first edition, and I start doing exactly what my sponsor, not knowing who I am yet, not knowing how to do this, right? But if I had any problem, I'd call my sponsor. Like, I really don't think she has any part to play in this. What do I tell her? Because you know how we are. Like, sometimes that really gets me. And so we do this together, but we do it. And that is, it's just action. It's just action. We don't have to want it. We have to do it. If you want to live, if you want out of that. There is so much freedom to come. There are so many new experiences, like, right? pet peeve of mine is when people come in at meetings and they say, yeah, man, I just had a bad day and I'm just here to get my mind right? Like, do you know how many times I said that? Get my mind right? Like, I don't have the power to get my mind right. I tried to do that. I would have went to boot camp in a prison and did this book if I could have memorized it enough to have the power to stop me from drinking because my mind wasn't quite right and I was just going to come to a meeting and get it right? It just doesn't work like that. It doesn't for me. It's a way of life. Unfortunately, young people in this program, man, it's difficult because this disease takes most of us into our old age. That's what I've seen over the years. I do have 2 sons in recovery. One of them broke into my house when I was there, started messing with some people I was messing with, got on heroin, okay? I was able to get him into rehab. He went, I think, 4 times. That last one, he called me, he said, I'm gonna love this place. It's a big book on steroids. It was a self-pay rehab, and this is the only thing they worked out of, man, and he's clean and sober today. He's a missionary over in Brazil, and stuff. And the other one did the same thing, right in Battle Creek, Michigan, but they both did venture into more of a religious path because they found more young people. I'm in a small town. I know that you got Mickey Paw and something here? Yeah. And I love that. And I really, because my heart and soul is for Alcoholics Anonymous, wanted my boys to freaking, be up in this, doing the thing. But they're clean and sober. I have a relationship with all 3 of my boys today, man. And, it's some good shit. It's some good shit. But I'm not unique in any way. I wake up every day. I say the 3rd step prayer, man. And it says on page 23, I think, our constant thought of others and how we can help meet their needs has to be throughout my day. That's my thinking, right? From a selfish and self-centered person to the core. Can think of others today. And make it a mission to. It's a purpose thing. I mean, it's a selfish thing too. Like, I'm going to die if I don't get with you and hear about you and work with you and do some sacrificial things and get out in the snow and come meet with a sponsee, right? Even when I think she's not even really wanting it. How dare I, waste my time, right? Like, I want the serious people here, right? No. Who stands sober? I am. And anybody, any one of us can have this if we do what it tells us to do. 2 things I just want to share with. If there's, anybody in here, okay, that ever finds himself out on a relapse and they're believing some lie that Alcoholics Anonymous doesn't work, tell it to fuck off and come back. Okay? Yeah. And don't ever stop coming back. It took me 30-some years to finally, check this out, do what I was told. Okay? Something I never aspired to do. And literally though, right? I mean, don't grown-ups kind of do that? They don't have a hard time doing what they're told, right? And here I am almost entering up into older age, and I still don't want to do what I'm told, right? So I'm so grateful today that I can do that. I can do that, and I can take an honest look at myself and follow the principles of this program and save my life. Don't ever stop coming back. Don't ever. If your heart is beating, come to a meeting. It just might be the day that you do what you're told, right? I think that's it. Have I spoke for